Welcome to the Webb Report. I'm Stuart Webb. Today I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind for a few days now. About a week ago, I was listening to a podcast, one of Matt Walsh's shows, and most of you, I'm sure, know who he is. He's very prominent in the kind of the conservative talk show or podcasting industry. And most of the Daily Wire guys, I agree with a lot of what they say. A lot of their perspectives, I think, are good, and I think they have. I think their perspectives and what they talk about, it can be very valuable, and so I do enjoy listening to them. But what in particular I wanted to talk about was something that Matt Walsh brought up, and it was just kind of funny because it's like he said something that was really profound, but his solution or his understanding of it was, limited. And so I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. Basically, what he said, what he brought up, was that during the 2020 COVID lockdowns, where basically our society was shut down, and our natural rights were violated more than they've ever been violated. Definitely in my lifetime, and probably in most people's lifetime that are still around today. And what he said was, he basically said, basically all the governments and all the governors in the United States, they all in unison, simultaneously, in concert with each other, just shut down society. This was obviously unconstitutional and wrong and immoral and went against natural law, essentially. And when all the craziness and chaos and lockdowns were finally kind of over, and people realized that it was completely wrong and basically a sham, no one was held accountable. And there's all these congressional hearings. For the last few years, there's just been hearing after hearing, and to give the appearance that government officials are going to be held accountable for these kinds of things. And we see it all the time, but then nothing happens. No one is punished. No one is actually held accountable. And so when Matt Walsh was talking about this, I of course I agree that he's exactly right. That's exactly what happened. But why were they not held accountable? And what was interesting is that it's not that it was a partisan thing. This was not a partisan thing during the COVID lockdowns. Every single governor basically shut down society. You would think that in America, in a free society, with the separation of powers and states' rights and the whole purpose of states' rights, you would think that there would be, at least a decent portion of governors that would say, no, we're not going to do that. And you would think that there would be some sort of basically defiance and pushback, but there wasn't. There wasn't any pushback. It was every governor and every government just shutting down society. And so, when he was talking about this, he made a great point. So why was no one held accountable? And the answer is actually in the scriptures. And let me read from the Book of Mormon. It's Helaman, chapter 6, verse 21. But behold, Satan did stir up the hearts of the more part of the Nephites, insomuch that they did unite with those band of robbers, and did enter into their covenants and their oaths, that they would protect and preserve one another in whatsoever difficult circumstances they should be placed, that they should not suffer for their murders and their plunderings and their stealings. And it came to pass that they did have their signs, yea, their secret signs, and their secret words, and this, that they might distinguish a brother who had entered into the covenant, that whatsoever wickedness his brother should do, he should not be injured by his brother, nor by those who did belong to his band, who had taken this covenant. And thus they might murder and plunder and steal and commit whoredoms and all manner of wickedness, contrary to the laws of their country and also the laws of their God. There's a lot more in that chapter, but that, to me, I believe, is why all these governments and these governors acted in unison with each other, and to violate the natural rights of men and to destroy the agency of men. They acted in unison with each other, and no one was held accountable for these wrongs. And I think that is very telling. It is a sign that should be obvious to us that there's something to those scriptures that I just read. There's something to those verses. Now, the other part of that, well, what should we do when we kind of see these things go on? Well, first, we need to, it's like kind of like the 12 steps. You know, when you have an addiction, you first need to admit that you have an addiction, right? And so there's another very important verse in the Book of Mormon. It's Ether chapter 8, verse 24. It says, "Wherefore the Lord commandeth you, when ye shall see these things come among you, that ye shall awake to a sense of your awful situation because of this secret combination, which shall be among you, or woe be unto it because of the blood of them who have been slain. For they cry from the dust for vengeance upon it, and also upon those who built it up." So, first we need to admit that secret combinations are real. And I think that is honestly the hardest part for everyone. During the lockdowns, during COVID, you might remember a lot of people just going, "I don't know what's going on. What is happening?" Well, that's what's happening. The verses that I just read. I mean, so I understand that it disrupted. It's kind of, scary when your life is disrupted and you're a little confused as to why. Well, the first step is we need to understand who really was a part of shutting down society. And that's the first step, is that we need to awake to our awful situation. We need to understand what happened, and who did that, and why did they do that. I know it is a scary thing, but we have to have faith that if we do our best to stand for what's right, to do what's right, that God will support us and will have our backs. So that's been on my mind this week, that thought, and I have a lot more to say about these things, but for now, I'll just leave it there. We need to first admit that we need to awake to our awful situation and admit that secret combinations are real. It should be obvious to everyone after 2020, the lockdowns, and something was very, very wrong. And I think a lot of people feel that in their heart, that it's just very, very wrong. And it's been about 2 years since really we've seen those kind of restrictions, and things have gotten semi back to normal, and for the most part people can live their lives again. But that makes us really complacent. And even me, we have short memories, short attention spans, and we need to do our best to not forget what happened and who did those things. We need to try to understand the laws of God and the laws of nature, which are the laws of God, because the Creator and the God of nature is our Heavenly Father. So natural law is super important to understand, and that's laid out pretty well in the Bill of Rights, in the Constitution of the United States. And I definitely want to discuss and talk more about my thoughts on those things, because they're so important. And with July coming up, I definitely want to talk more about that, because they're very important, and we should cherish the principles of the Constitution. It's not perfect, but it is a very inspired document, and we should learn about it and what the principles in the Constitution are and why they're there. And we should study them more and take them more serious, so that when every government in the United States wants to shut down society and take away our natural rights, we have the ability to say no. We can just simply say no. And we need to work on doing that. It's called civil disobedience, which means you can just simply not, if someone's trying to get you to do something that's immoral, unjust, something that's going against your conscience, going against natural law, you could just say no. I'm not going to do that. You don't have to take like a huge stand and you don't have to have a million arguments laid out as to why. You can simply just say, no, I'm not going to do that thing that you want me to do. And that's very important. Our Heavenly Father wants us to have agency, and the devil wants to destroy our agency. And so we need to fight to protect our agency. And so I'm going to be talking more about that. But anyway, those are my thoughts for today. And I'm just getting back in the hang of this. And, being able to speak, just off the top of my head and for a long length of time. I'm getting back in the hang of it. So hopefully these episodes will be more enjoyable as I continue doing this. All kind of part of the reason why I'm doing this is so that I can study more and retain the information that I cherish. Because if you don't study it, if you don't practice, and honestly, repetition in saying things, you will forget them. And I don't want to forget important things, and so a lot of this is for my own benefit, so that I can be a better person, so I can be a better disciple of Jesus Christ. So I'll leave it there for today. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you later.